Here is the word-for-word translation of what you provided into English. Hey, Kules. Are you sitting down? Because what I'm going to tell you today will leave you speechless, like when Messi scored an incredible last-minute free-kick goal. In Barcelona, the city where football is more of an art than a sport, Deco, our sporting director with sharper vision than a hawk mid-hunt, has made a bold move that resonates from the Camp Nou to the beaches of Barceloneta. Yes, friends, the transfer market seemed closed, the curtains drawn, but Deco, with that Brazilian calm that defines him, pulled a rabbit out of his hat. A masterstroke, a move that no one, not even the most optimistic Kuhl, saw coming. But don't worry, I'll tell you everything step by step, as if we were sitting at a table after a good match in the local bar. We're in the summer of 2025. The sun is blazing in the county city, and Barça, under the leadership of Hansi Flick, is in an enviable position. Last season was a dream, a domestic treble that gave us back our pride as Kuhls. But as in life, not everything is rosy. The club's finances are as delicate as a GAVI pass in tight spaces, and the transfer market seemed more of a headache than a game of chess. Yet Deco, with that mix of cool-headedness and business acumen, decided this Barça wouldn't settle for what it already had. No, gentlemen, this team wants more, and the Brazilian went all in. The protagonist of this story is none other than Alejandro Grimaldo, the prodigal son returning home. Yes, you heard right. Grimaldo, the left-back trained at La Masia, who toughened up in Portugal with Benfica and shone like a star at Bayer Leverkusen, is back. And no, this isn't one of those rumors that circulate on social media like a video of a little Ronaldinho trick. It's real, tangible, and signed. Deco negotiated with the precision of a surgeon and closed the transfer for €15 million. A bargain in these times when clubs demand fortunes for players who don't even come close to our Alejandro. But let's go step by step, because this deserves to be told calmly, like when Xavi explained a play on the board. A few weeks ago, the market seemed closed. We Kuhls were already excited about the names Flick had in his squad. Joan Garcia in goal, Nico Williams blazing down the wing, and a midfield combining Pedri's magic with Gavi's grit. But then, boom, Inigo Martinez left for Saudi's Al Nassr, leaving a hole in defense bigger than the one Puyol left in his time. Flick, who isn't the type to sit idle, told Deco, "We need a centre-back and a left-back who doesn't just defend but attacks like a winger." And Deco, with that mischievous smile that seems to say, "Relax, boss, I've got it all under control," got to work. Grimaldo wasn't a name on the media's radar. The headlines were talking about other players, rumors from the Premier League, possible departures like Fermin Lopez, whom Chelsea keeps eyeing. But Deco, like a good magician, saved his final trick for the last minute. The negotiations with Leverkusen were quick and discreet, like a De Jong through ball. The €15 million release clause was a steal for a club like Barça, which continues to struggle with financial restrictions. And Grimaldo, who never hid his love for the club that raised him, didn't hesitate for a second. "Returning home," he said in a recent interview, "is a dream not everyone can fulfill." And if that already gives you goosebumps, imagine what's coming next. Subscribe to the Kuhls channel, because what's coming this season will be breathtaking. Now, why Grimaldo? Let's analyze this as if we were on a post-match TV show. First, experience. Alejandro is 29 years old, at the peak of his career, and has played in competitive leagues like Portugal's and Germany's. He knows what it's like to win titles, to compete in Europe, and, above all, what it means to carry Barça in his heart. Second, versatility. Grimaldo isn't just a left-back who locks down his flank like a padlock. He's an offensive weapon. His assists at Leverkusen were a spectacle. Precise crosses, overlapping runs, and even some magnificent goals. Flick, who loves vertical and attacking football, must be rubbing his hands together imagining how Grimaldo will fit into his system. But it's not that simple, Kuhls. Grimaldo's transfer had to overcome some obstacles. For example, registration. Yes, that word that scares Barça fans more than a 90th-minute penalty. The club had to free up salary space, and that's where Inaki Peña's contract renewal and loan to Elche came in to free up budget room. Additionally, the renewals of key players like Frenkie de Jong, Jules Koundé, and Eric Garcia helped stabilize the finances. Deco, with a calculator in one hand and a phone in the other, played his cards like a poker master. And the result is here. Grimaldo is already in Barcelona, training with the team, ready to make his debut in the next match. Let's talk about the impact this will have on the team. Imagine the lineup: Boise Szczesny in goal, proving he's still a wall. In defense, Araujo and Christensen as center-backs, with Bald and Grimaldo competing for the left-back spot. Yes, Bald, our young talent, now has world-class competition, but that's a good thing. Competition brings out the best in players, like when Ronaldinho and Eto'o used to challenge each other in training to see who could pull off the most spectacular trick. In midfield, Johnny and Pedri pulling the strings, with GAVI running as if his life depended on it. And up front, Nico Williams, LAMINE Yamal, and Lewandowski, who scores goals like he's still 25. Isn't this a dream team? If this doesn't make you want to see it all firsthand, I don't know what will. Subscribe, cool, because you won't see this in just any news program. But wait, there's more. This transfer isn't just a move to strengthen the squad, it's a statement of intent. Deco is building a Barça for the future, but also for the present. Grimaldo doesn't just bring quality, but also that winning mentality Flick wants to instill. The German, who has already shown he can lead the team to the top, sees Grimaldo as the perfect profile, a player who knows the club, doesn't need time to adapt, and can make a difference from the first minute. And if this doesn't already have you on the edge of your seat, Cules, this isn't just another story. It's another chapter in the endless novel of FC Barcelona, a club where drama and glory go hand in hand. And if you want to keep living every chapter as if you were in the Camp Nou box, subscribe to the channel, because here, we never stop. And let's not forget the emotional factor. Grimaldo is a product of La Masia, someone who grew up dreaming of playing at the Camp Nou. His return is like coming home after a long journey and being welcomed with a freshly prepared paella. Now, not everything is roses and violins. Some say that 15 million euros for a 29-year-old player is risky, especially for a club with tight finances. But come on, who wouldn't take that risk for a fullback who could start in any top team in Europe? Plus, Deco has shown he knows how to manage the budget like no one else. Renewing 19 players in less than 2 years is no small feat. Since his arrival in August 2023, the Brazilian has renewed key players like De Jong and Eric Garcia and brought in young talents like Lo Celso, an 18-year-old Croatian who promises to be the next Modric. All while managing economic restrictions and league demands. If that's not magic, let Cruyff come down from heaven to see it. And speaking of Cruyff, this transfer has a bit of that total football philosophy we love so much. Grimaldo isn't just a defender, he's a player who contributes to all phases of the game. He can defend solidly, join the attack dangerously, and even take free kicks if needed. At Leverkusen, his stats were outrageous. 10 assists and 3 goals last season. Can you imagine what he can do with players like PEDRI or YAMAL by his side? It's like giving Picasso a brush and saying, paint whatever you want. But let's not get carried away by excitement alone. There are challenges ahead. Integrating Grimaldo into an already well-oiled team won't be a walk in the park. Bald, who has been an undisputed starter, won't give up his spot without a fight, and Flick will have to find a balance so both fullbacks can shine. Plus, the pressure at Barça is a whole different ballgame. Playing at the Camp Nou with 90,000 Cules screaming your name isn't the same as doing it at the Bay Arena. But if anyone can handle it, it's Grimaldo. The guy grew up with Barca's DNA. He knows what tiki-taka is and has the experience not to be intimidated by anything. Another point to consider is the impact of this transfer on the rest of the market. With Grimaldo in the squad, Barca now has more depth on the left flank, which could open the door for some departures. Hector Fort, for example, has attracted interest from clubs like Everton and West Ham. Will they loan him out for playing time, or will he stay to learn from Grimaldo? Deco has the final say, but what's clear is that the Brazilian doesn't do anything without reason. Every move is calculated like an Iniesta pass in the final second. And as I write this, I can't help but imagine the atmosphere at the Camp Nou when Grimaldo steps onto the pitch. The stands roaring, the chants of Visca el Barca, and Alejandro raising his hand to greet his own. It's the kind of thing that makes you love football, because Barca isn't just a club, it's a family, a passion, a way of understanding life. And Grimaldo, who has it in his blood, is ready to write a new chapter in this story. By the way, speaking of stories, did you know that Deco is also working on other fronts? Even though the market is about to close, there are rumors that the club is still looking for a center-back to strengthen the defense after Inigo Martinez's departure. Names like Ademola Lookman or even Rodrigo have been mentioned, though it sounds more like science fiction than reality. But with Deco, you never know. This man has more aces up his sleeve than a cheater in Las Vegas. In the end, Cules, this Grimaldo transfer is just the beginning. The 2025/2026 season promises to be epic with a team that combines youth, experience, and, above all, hunger for titles. Flick is building something great, and Deco is providing the perfect pieces for the puzzle. So get your scarves ready, stock the fridge with beers, and get comfortable, because this Barça is going to make a lot of noise. And if you want to stay updated on every detail, every goal, every play, don't think twice. Subscribe to the channel, because what's coming is even bigger. And here we are, Cules, still riding the high of Grimaldo's transfer, a return that makes all of Barcelonismo dream of epic nights at the Camp Nou. But let's not stop at just the emotion of the moment, because there's so much more to unpack in Deco's masterstroke. This move isn't just a new name on the roster, it's a piece that fits like a glove into Hansi Flick's tactical puzzle. And I'll explain why, breaking down every detail as if we were analyzing a play in slow motion. So grab a cold beer, because we're continuing our post-match football discussion. The first thing to understand is how Grimaldo will change the team's dynamics on the field. Flick, who has brought a fresh wind to Barça with his direct and vertical style, has always insisted on the importance of fullbacks. He doesn't want defenses that stay back waiting for the opponent to attack. He wants fullbacks who are like knives, who push forward, overlap, and break lines. And that's where Grimaldo fits like a glove. At Leverkusen, Alejandro didn't just defend. He was practically an extra winger, a player who reached the byline as easily as he cut out an opposing attack. His stats speak for themselves. In the last Bundesliga season, he averaged 2.5 key passes per game and an 85% pass accuracy. In a team like Barça, where the ball moves faster than gossip in a village, that's pure gold. But don't think this is just about numbers. Grimaldo brings something more, something intangible that only those who grew up at La Masia understand. The DNA flows. That touch, that vision, that way of reading the game, as if the ball were an extension of his body. When he left the academy to join Benfica, many thought he was a lost talent, another player who couldn't make the jump to the first team. But Alejandro left, became a man in Portugal and Germany, and now he's back with the maturity of a veteran and the enthusiasm of a youngster. It's like if Iniesta had decided to return to Barça after a few years away. It's not the same, of course, but the feeling is similar. And if that already gives you goosebumps, just imagine him in action. Subscribe to the Cules channel, because these stories, we only live them together, we who bleed Blaugrana. Now, let's talk about how Grimaldo fits into the locker room, because yes, talent is important, but at Barça, the locker room is sacred, like grandma's dining room. Flick has built a united group where youngsters like LAMINE, YAMAL, and GAVI mix with veterans like LEWANDOWSKI and De Jong. Grimaldo isn't arriving as a stranger. He's coming back as someone who already knows the smell of the Camp Nou grass, who has shared the locker room with some of the La Masia kids who are now stars. In fact, word is he's already spoken with Bald and Pedri, teammates from his days in the lower La Masia categories. The chemistry is guaranteed, and that's key for a team aiming to compete in every competition. Because let's not fool ourselves, Cules, this Barça doesn't just want to win La Liga. It wants the Champions League, the Copa, and even the summer tournament trophy if necessary. But not everything is idyllic, because this isn't a fairy tale. Grimaldo's arrival raises interesting questions. For example, what happens to Alejandro Bald? The young fullback, one of the revelations of recent years, isn't going to sit on the bench clapping. Bald is pure nerve, speed, and audacity, but Grimaldo surpasses him in experience and that final attacking touch. Flick, who is sharper than hunger itself, will likely opt for smart rotation. In matches where Barça needs to dominate and open up the game, Grimaldo will be chosen for his ability to join the attack. But in physical battles, like a Clásico or a Champions League match against an English team, Bald could be the key man for his speed and ability to close down spaces. It's healthy competition, like the kind Alves and Adriano had in their time, and it can only benefit the team. And speaking of rotations, we can't forget the schedule. The 2025/2026 season is packed. La Liga, the Champions League, the Copa del Rey, the Supercopa, and who knows, maybe even the Club World Cup. Having two world-class left-backs is a luxury few teams can afford. Imagine Grimaldo coming on fresh in the second half of a Champions League match, with the opponent already exhausted from chasing bald. It's like having two aces, and Flick knows it. The German, who always has a notebook full of tactical notes, must already be designing plays where Grimaldo and Nico Williams combine on the left flank like cousins in a family kickabout. But let's not stop at just the pitch, because this transfer also has an impact off the field. Deco has sent a clear message to the rivals. Barça is back. It's not just that we've signed a great player, it's that we've done it for €15 million in a market where prices are more inflated than a balloon at a kid's party. This shows that the club is slowly climbing out of its financial hole. We're not swimming in money, but things are being done right. Contract renewals, strategic sales like Inigo Martinez's, and now this transfer show that Deco understands not just football, but the numbers too. It's like he has an MBA in sports management and a PhD in dribbles at the same time. And here's a detail few people know. The Grimaldo operation wasn't as simple as it seems. Leverkusen didn't want to let him go so easily. Even though the €15 million release clause was clear, the German club tried to negotiate a higher fee, knowing Grimaldo was one of their key players. But Deco, with the calm of someone who has played at the highest level, kept his cool. It's said that during one of the meetings, Leverkusen's sporting director told him, "Alejandro is our leader, we can't let him go for so little." And Deco, with a smile, replied, "It's not that you're losing him, you're sending him back home." And so, with a few calls and a few coffees, he closed the deal. That's how you negotiate, Kules, not like some clubs that throw money around without thinking. Now, let's talk about the impact on the fans. Because yes, football belongs to the players and coaches, but also to us, the Kules who fill the Camp Nou, those who shout from the couch, those who argue in bars over whether the referee made the right call. Grimaldo's arrival has sparked a wave of excitement on social media. The memes didn't take long to appear. There's one going around with Grimaldo as Thor, hammer in hand, ready to destroy opposing defenses. And it's not for nothing. This transfer is a morale boost, a reminder that Barça doesn't just live off its history, it's writing new chapters. And if you want to follow every part of this adventure, don't think twice, subscribe, because you won't see this anywhere else. But it's not all laughs and memes. There are also debates on some forums. Some wonder if Grimaldo, at 29, is a long-term investment. It's true he's not 20 like LAMINE YAMAL, but in modern football, 29 is the new youth. Players like Modric or Lewandowski have shown that with care and professionalism, you can perform at your peak well past 30. And Grimaldo, who has always been a model of discipline, isn't the type to slack off. At Leverkusen, his teammates described him as training-obsessed, always the last to leave the pitch. That kind of mentality is exactly what Flick wants in his locker room. Additionally, let's not forget the domino effect this transfer could have on the market. With Grimaldo in the squad, Barça now has a dream left flank, but it could also mean another player like young Hector Fort seeks minutes elsewhere. Fort, who has shown flashes of quality in the matches he's played, could be loaned to a La Liga team or even a Premier League club, where teams like Everton have already inquired about him. It would be a shame to see him leave, but sometimes you have to let the fledglings fly so they come back stronger, just like Grimaldo himself did. And speaking of returns, I can't help but think about what Grimaldo's first match at the Camp Nou will be like. Picture the scene, a Saturday night, the stadium full, the lights bright, and the announcer's voice declaring, "Alejandro Grimaldo." The stands erupt, the chants echo, and he, with his characteristic calm, raises his hand to greet his own. Then, on the first ball he touches, he sends a pinpoint cross that Lewandowski slots into the back of the net. Isn't that the kind of thing that makes you love football, that makes you feel all the suffering, the nerve-wracking nights, and the arguments with Madridista friends are worth it? But let's not get carried away by emotion alone. We also need to talk about the tactical challenges. Flick, who is obsessed with details, is already working to get the most out of Grimaldo. One of the key aspects will be his connection with the wingers. Nico Williams, who has been one of the surprises of the season, is a perfect partner for Grimaldo. Both have that spark, that ability to unbalance defenses. Imagine Nico sprinting like a deer down the wing while Grimaldo overlaps, creating numerical superiority. It's like watching a ballet, but with cleats and a ball. And let's not forget the midfield. PEDRI, who plays as if he has a GPS in his head, will be tasked with connecting with Grimaldo. The Canary Islanders' threaded passes, combined with Alejandro's ability to reach the byline, can be lethal. Add to that Gavi's grit, who never loses a ball, and De Jong's class, who always finds space where no one else sees it, and Barça has a team that can make anyone tremble. Even Real Madrid, who still rely heavily on Vinicius and little else, will have nightmares about this left flank. By the way, speaking of Real Madrid, I can't help but throw in a little jab. While they spend millions on players who never quite fit in, we, with a tighter budget, are building a team that combines talent, heart, and strategy. Deco has shown that you don't need a blank check to recruit well, you need a brain. And that's something Kules appreciate, because Barça isn't just a club, it's a way of understanding football, a philosophy that goes beyond results. And while I'm thinking about it, I can't help but picture Deco in his office with a cup of coffee and a smile, planning his next move. Because let's not fool ourselves, this transfer is just one more piece of the puzzle. The winter transfer window is around the corner, and while the team seems complete now, who knows what surprise our sporting director might have up his sleeve. A centre-back, a defensive midfielder, or maybe another unexpected return. With Deco, anything is possible. In the end, Kules, this is just the beginning. The season is underway, and with Grimaldo in the squad, Barça has one more reason to dream. So get your Blaugrana jerseys ready, fill the stadium with passion, and follow this adventure with us, because football, like life, is better when we experience it together. And here we are, Kules, with the Camp Nou buzzing as if it were the eve of a Champions League final asterisk, because Grimaldo's arrival has sparked a flame that makes the entire Blaugrana fanbase dream big. This isn't just a transfer, it's a statement of intent, a bold move that says, Barça is here to win. Deco has played his cards like a master, and now it's up to us, the ones with the scarves and the chants in the stands, to enjoy every detail of this move. So let's keep breaking down this story as if we were in our usual bar, beer in hand and hearts beating to the rhythm of the Kules anthem. Let's start with what this transfer means for the team's identity. Barça has always been more than a club, and Grimaldo embodies that essence like few others. It's not just that he came from La Masia, it's that he carries the Kules style branded into his soul. When you watch him play, you don't just see a fullback running up and down the flank. You see someone who understands the game as if he studied at Cruyff School. His movements aren't just instinctive, they're calculated, precise, as if he has a map of the pitch in his head. At Leverkusen, he combined with his teammates with a naturalness reminiscent of the best tiki-taka days. And now, in a team where PEDRI and De Jong weave plays like they're embroidering a tapestry, Grimaldo will be the golden thread that completes the masterpiece. But let's talk about something less mentioned, the psychological impact of this transfer. In football, it's not all about the physical or tactical. Mindset plays a huge role. Grimaldo is arriving in a locker room that's enjoying a sweet moment but also knows what it's like to suffer. The past few years, with injuries, financial crises, and a few rough patches in Europe, have left scars, but they've also forged a winning character. Alejandro's arrival is like an adrenaline shot for the group. It's a reminder that Barça doesn't just sign stars, it signs stories, emotions, players who understand what it means to wear this jersey. For a young team with talents like LAMINE Yamal or Pau Cubarsí, having someone like Grimaldo, who has traveled the world but never forgot where he came from, is a living example that dreams come true with hard work. Now, let's think about how this will play out on the pitch. Flick is a coach who lives for the details, a guy who analyzes everything down to the angle at which a player strikes the ball. With Grimaldo, he has a weapon that allows him to explore new tactical dimensions. For example, one of the keys to Flick's system is high pressing. Barça doesn't just want the ball, it wants to win it back quickly, as if it were stolen treasure. Grimaldo, with his intelligence in reading the game, is perfect for that first line of pressure. At Leverkusen, you'd see him cutting off passes and anticipating opponents as if he had a sixth sense. Imagine that at the Camp Nou, with Gavi running like a bull and De Jong covering space like an octopus. It's a nightmare for any opponent. But it's not just about defense. Grimaldo is a fullback who attacks with the precision of a sharpshooter. His crosses aren't just balls into the box, they're invitations to score. In the Bundesliga, his passes into the area had surgical precision, and now, with strikers like Lewandowski, who smells goals like a shark smells blood, or Nico Williams, who runs like he has a Formula One engine, those crosses are going to be deadly. And let's not forget Lamine Yamal, the kid who, at 18, already does things even Ronaldinho in his prime wouldn't have dared. The connection between Grimaldo and Yamal on the wing could be pure spectacle, like a jazz duo improvising at a concert. And speaking of spectacle, there's something we can't ignore: Grimaldo's impact in the big games. Because yes, Barça wants to win La Liga, but what really gets us going are the Champions League nights, those duels that make your heart race. Grimaldo is no stranger to Europe. He's played against teams like Bayern, Liverpool, and Atletico, and he doesn't back down. His experience in these battles will be crucial when Barça faces giants like Manchester City or PSG. Flick, who knows what it takes to win the Champions League, must be licking his lips thinking about how to use Grimaldo in those matches where every detail counts. Across from him in the 90th minute for Lewandowski to score, that's the kind of thing that makes you jump off the couch and wake up the neighbors. But it's not all that simple. Integrating a player like Grimaldo, even if he's one of our own, requires adjustments. For example, Flick's system relies heavily on synchronization between players. Fullbacks don't just need to push forward, they need to know when to do it and how to coordinate with the winger and midfielder on their side. Grimaldo, who has played for years in Leverkusen's more rigid system, will need to adapt to Barca's breakneck pace. But here's the advantage of his cool past: Alejandro already understands the philosophy. He knows that in this team, the ball isn't just kicked, it's caressed. His adaptation won't be like that of a foreign transfer arriving without understanding the Blaugrana language of play. Another interesting point is how this transfer affects youth development. La Masia remains a talent factory, and players like Héctor Fort or Marc Casado are waiting for their opportunity. Grimaldo's arrival might mean fewer minutes for Fort, who has shown flashes of quality but is still raw. However, this isn't necessarily a bad thing. Having a reference like Grimaldo in training is like attending a masterclass every day. Fort, who is like a sponge, can learn from Alejandro's movements, positioning, and mentality. And who knows? Maybe a loan to a La Liga team like Girona or Betis will give him the minutes he needs to explode. Deco, who always thinks long-term, surely has a plan for these youngsters. By the way, speaking of Deco, I can't help but admire how he's managed all of this. The Brazilian didn't just close the Grimaldo transfer, he performed financial acrobatics as if he were a tightrope walker in a circus. The league's restrictions are stricter than a math teacher grading an exam, but Deco found a way to register Grimaldo without selling any stars. This was partly possible thanks to commercial deals like the new Nike contract, which gave the club some breathing room. But credit must also be given to managing departures. For example, Inaki Peña's loan didn't just free up salary space, it also gave the goalkeeper the chance to shine at Elche, where he's already saving penalties like a superhero. And if we're talking about superheroes, I can't help but think about how Grimaldo will win over the fans. We Cules are demanding, but we also know how to recognize our own. When Alejandro steps onto the pitch wearing that jersey with the crest he loves so much, the stands will roar as if it were Lionel Messi himself. And it's not just because of his talent, it's because of what he represents. He's proof that Barça hasn't lost its essence, that La Masia remains the heart of the club. Every time Grimaldo sends in a cross or cuts out a pass, he'll be saying, "I'm home." And if that doesn't give you goosebumps, I don't know what will. By the way, if you want to experience every moment of this adventure with us, subscribe to the Cules channel, because what's coming is going to be insane. But let's not stop at just the romance. We also need to talk about the economic impact of this transfer. Because yes, 15 million euros for Grimaldo is a bargain, but Barça isn't here to throw money out the window. Every euro counts, and Deco knows it. That's why this move is even more impressive. He didn't just bring in a top-level player, he did it without destabilizing the finances. Part of this is due to contract restructuring. Players like Eric Garcia and Jules Koundé accepted adjustments to help the club, showing that the locker room is committed to the project. It's as if everyone, from the players to the staff, knows this is a pivotal moment for Barça. And speaking of pivotal moments, we can't forget the context of the season. Barça is in a strong position in La Liga, but the competition is fierce. Real Madrid, with Vinicius and Bellingham, remains a tough nut to crack. Atletico, with their usual grit, won't give an inch, and in Europe, teams like Bayern or Arsenal are stronger than ever. Grimaldo arrives just in time to provide that extra bit of quality that can make the difference in tight matches. Because in modern football, titles aren't just won with talent, they're won with squad depth, with players who can come off the bench and change the course of a game. Another aspect few people consider is how Grimaldo can influence set-piece play. Barça has improved significantly in this area under Flick, but there's still room for growth. Grimaldo, with his precise foot, is a specialist in free kicks and corners. At Leverkusen, his corner kicks were a nightmare for opposing defenses, and now, with towers like Araujo or Lewandowski in the box, those balls can turn into goals. It's a minor detail, but in a long season where matches are decided by millimeters, these things matter. And let's not forget the impact on the transfer market. Grimaldo's arrival closed one door but opened others. For example, there are rumors that the club is looking for a defensive midfielder to complement De Jong and GAVI. Names like Joshua Kimmich or Martin Zubimendi have been mentioned, though it seems more like a dream than reality. But with Deco in charge, you never know. The Brazilian has a special talent for finding opportunities where others only see problems. Meanwhile, fans continue to dream of more surprises. Because if this transfer has taught us anything, it's that Barça always has an ace up its sleeve. At the end of the day, what makes this moment special is the feeling that we're building something great. Flick, Deco, the players, the fans, we're all rowing in the same direction. Grimaldo isn't just a fullback. He's a symbol that Barça is becoming the team that makes the world dream again. And when we see him sprinting down the wing with the Camp Nou chanting his name, we'll know it was all worth it. So, Cules, stay with us, because this story is far from over. Click the subscribe button, because what's coming is priceless.